Good evening and welcome back to VI Voices. Welcome back because we haven't been here for quite a minute. And so about 2 weeks, right?
2 weeks.
About 2 weeks. We haven't seen each other for a while.
Yeah.
And so we are here at VI Voices to do our quick wrap up of pretty much what's been going on since the last time that you've seen us, and to talk about the pure mess, the shenanigans that are going on, as it's 1 week since the November 4th elections, and we still do not know who our governor is. We still don't know whether or not there'll be a need for runoff. We still don't have final results for the senatorial races, both on St. Croix and on St. Thomas. I think the only thing that is clear is who's the delegate.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it.
Yes, that is clear.
And the confusion continues in our territory. And so tonight, what we're basically going to talk about is hot topics, all hot topics, and what's been happening during that time frame. And so, welcome. I haven't seen you all in quite a long time.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back. So let's start. We had our elections November 4th.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to seemingly go off without a hitch when people were voting, because I voted Alexander Henderson.
Yeah.
I was in and I was out.
Correct.
The only thing I did not too care for was me having to put my ballot in a garbage bin.
Correct.
For later. But other than that, the voting process.
It went off without a hitch. That was the hitch in itself.
No. I meant went up without a hitch, meaning that there was
I know
no
what you mean, but it's
confusion
like how you
at
say
the
they
polls.
didn't come out
Yeah.
good.
Because we
that
didn't
don't
reach the
sound-
hitch yet.
but
The hitch wasn't the voting.
The hitch was even prior to the voting day, the actual vote. That was the hitch. The hitch was a week before when
In
they
other
said
words,
you
there
ain't
was,
running the truth.
there was no physical altercations or
Right, because
anything.
people were really
Nobody
upset,
used to
and
do
they
it.
were talking
Right.
about
People went-
I ain't voting, and they were talking about I'm not going to do this, and they're going to take my ballot from me. And,
Exactly.
well, I don't know about anybody's school. At my school, where I voted, that didn't happen.
There was only one incident, and that was in Sibley School in St. Thomas, where a voter decided, a female voter, I believe, and in talking to a couple of people who were at Sibley, they told me if the judge for election had handled it a little bit better, I think there would not have been any.
Okay.
There would not have been such an outcome. But I think the lady just didn't cast a vote because of it. But it was just one incident at Sibley School in St. Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah, just beyond that.
Okay.
But my concern was about what was saying is those bins that we had to put our votes in, and I asked again someone who was a poll watcher for the Christensen campaign, who was there, in terms of was there seal on those bins? Did they get to actually look in the bins to make sure there was no actually ballots there before other ballots went in? I mean, because it's all about integrity of the process. You want to make sure that everything is sanitized.
Absolutely.
And that, to me, again, that's my concerns with the whole process. So there were a lot of opportunities to invite
Toro-esque behavior.
yeah, no, I won't call it tourist, but I will call it unsavory behavior, to suppress the vote or even to undermine the integrity of the entire process. There was a lot of opportunity because of how the votes were counted and how votes were cast. To me, because I'm still trying to get a good handle in terms of how all of this took place and why we are still at where we're at.
I mean, I can remember a few years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, maybe perhaps, when they started talking about the thief in votes, there's issues in the board of election, there's this and there's that, and I was kind of like hesitant on the fence in terms of the whole conspiracy theory. But after this election here, I am
believe it now.
convinced. I am convinced that there's a lot of foolishness that's happening behind the scenes, and people who trying to maintain a whole power that don't want to relinquish it so easy, and they're gonna do whatever it takes to keep it. But what's surprising is the fact that they're allowed, or it's seemingly allowed, they're seemingly allowed to do it or to get away with it. That's what's surprising to me. I can't believe that, first of all, more of us saying up in arms, first of all, and second of all, those who are in power, those in authority, do something or look into the situation, or indictments that are coming down, or some kind of big something. I don't know if it's
Well, it
happening
doesn't
behind
appear
the
that the
scenes.
federal government is any way, shape, or form concerned
Anyway, yes.
with what's going on.
Right.
They're not. And,
Correct.
and it's sad that they're not at least trying to let me step in and see what is going on
Yeah,
in
something
this
is
election.
obviously
Nobody's doing anything. That board of elections is allowed to run amok, do whatever they want to do, and really with one or two or few people, and nobody is concerned of the kind of behavior that we're seeing.
And that's where I'm concerned about, because there's no standard operating procedure for the Board of Elections. They make a policy as they go along.
right.
Even take a look at the ballot. The ballot said when you voted for Simba, if you read the ballot, it says you can vote the symbol vote. And the symbol vote governs almost every office and the ballot, with the exception of the Board of Election.
Yes.
With the exception of the Board of Election. So if you vote the symbol, you still have to stop and go back and vote for Board of
Doesn't make
Elections,
sense.
which doesn't make any sense.
And what happens when you vote for somebody outside of the Board of Elections? Outside of the symbol.
party.
That's what the confusion started. They said with the machine.
No, I meant if the symbol is there,
Yeah.
you have Democrats that went through a primary
Yeah.
and they're there at the Board of Elections,
Yeah.
right? Should it not then count to them?
Yes.
Okay, but you're saying it doesn't count for them.
No, because they
So
have.
when I now as a Democrat vote the symbol
Yeah.
and choose a non-Democrat,
Yeah.
shouldn't that then spoil my ballot?
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Okay, but it's not.
No.
Because they're saying the symbol does not apply to the Board of Elections.
That's what I said. It doesn't
Then what the hell
apply.
is the point?
That's it. It doesn't
So that
apply to the
now,
Board of
if I'm a
Elections.
Democrat
So
and I
it's
vote for somebody that's not a Democrat in the senatorial race
Yeah.
or in the gubernatorial race, then you should count it.
So my thing is, don't they now go against the law? I'm confused.
What
Because
law?
the-
What law?
There's
First
no
of all,
law that
there's no
requires
law,
any civil
right.
voting, you know.
Okay, see,
That's
the-
what
Of
they
course,
want.
and that's another thing too.
That's what they want.
And that's
Yes.
another thing too, like how they're saying that there's an issue with the machine, but the machine itself is not the issue.
The machine
It's
is
the
working
right. the
But
machine
where are the
working-
independent candidates? They're the ones who be up in
That's
arms. They're the ones who be
exactly
filing suit because that symbol voting thing benefits an established party.
Correct.
And as an independent voter, you should be able to say, well, no, I don't want that.
Doesn't
Because
make
then
sense.
you're disenfranchising me because somebody might go in there and do
Well,
what
there
they've
was
done.
a challenge. One of them, the gubernatorial candidate, Map, he challenged it.
Well, it's sitting in the Supreme Court right
But he's
now.
sitting in the court. But I mean, where are, okay, but is he alone with the rest?
With the rest, and that's the problem.
Exactly.
We are the rest. Where's the
Especially
Rocky
the
Library and all those other
Alligator,
people?
the ones who had to fight
They're
for
surprised.
the-
They're surprisingly
all
sad.
the
I know
other
that.
independent candidates for the Senate
Listen,
or
they,
wherever.
they
Correct.
sat here when we interviewed them and talk about this commission they're going to create for corruption. That's
And they are
surprising that they
quiet.
didn't, and very quick. Mom,
Church mouse louder than
nothing. You
them.
haven't heard
But
anything.
Donna's camp is also quiet.
Well, the benefit is
Yeah,
beneficial.
but that's
to
what's
them.
wrong.
No,
But that's what's wrong.
No, and the funniest thing about it is, Senator Gittins drove in my yard. I was there working with my pineapples, and he came in and he saw my vehicle. He said his bumper sticker was missing, so I needed to put it up. So we had a conversation, and I said, Senator Gittins, you know the funniest thing about you have been one of the leading vote getters in the last election. When your party is gonna get together, you, the delegate, and the other senators who are running and the Democratic ticket, and basically tell Mr. Benjamin, you need to go and talk to the Board of Elections and make it clear that we are going to remove any protest if the symbol is not on the ballot. And because it's Mr. Benjamin, remember the day after he came on our show, he came on the show on the Tuesday, and I believe the Wednesday or the Thursday, he was on Alvin G protesting, saying, if the symbol isn't on the ballot, we are going to take the Board of Elections to court.
Right.
And I asked, where's the party in all of this to make sure that we bring about a fair election, a semblance of a fair election?
Where is the law that mandates that you have a symbol
Okay, correct.
to vote symbol on a ballot?
And
I don't know. Is there one?
And that's what
Well,
no,
even
they're
if
saying
there
that
is
there's one.
does it matter?
But I don't think there is
Well, no,
one.
it matters because if there is no such law, then
Then they go out,
it's
go-
just a
right.
policy that you have.
Correct.
And then your policy is designed to make it harder for independent candidates to win.
To disenfranchise and suppress
Because
the vote.
if you're a if you're a Democrat or Republican or ICMer, you may want to vote for somebody else.
correct.
That may not be a part of your party.
Correct. And you want to be able to cast that
And
one.
you may want to cast a symbol vote to identify who you are, necessarily to identify who you are as a party. In other words, I don't understand the purpose of any symbols on the page of that to
I
begin
was,
with.
I was just
I
about
don't
to ask,
understand the purpose of it.
do we agree that we should just remove the symbols
Completely.
out of
Correct.
that
So-
completely?
so-
and
so-
don't even make that an issue?
Because if you want to vote and show your party pride, then go vote in the primary.
Correct.
That's where you go.
Yes.
When you're in the general election, just come and vote for who you want.
That's
What
right.
is the difficulty of looking for the people in them who are Democrats like you on the ballot that you like and shading in their
Ain't
name?
not much
Correct.
of any.
But
Especially when you have less than what, 5%, less than one, about 1%, 1 to 5% who
But-
vote symbol.
correct. But you know, if you think about it, this whole process was about making it more and more difficult to vote. Because even when you went and vote on those paper ballots, that little bubble was small.
No, this
No.
election was not about making it more difficult for anybody. This election was about making sure certain people get elected.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't
Man,
about
I want
ain't
Mayor
not-
Clean Point, man. What
Oh,
about
yeah,
the
go
bubble?
ahead.
The bubble was small, man.
Just
The
a
bubble
little-
was not small.
Get glasses.
What bubble was small?
The little bubble was small.
You never
You never
took
mean a bubble was
standardized
smart,
tests in school? You never took
Hey,
standardized
come on.
testing?
When you have
Yeah, what is it?
when you have older folk
I want to hear that.
who have limited dexterity.
They could have used the
That's
automark.
easy. Okay.
They could have used the automark machine and
And
tack
the-
into the thing.
and
Tack
done.
and blow. They didn't have to shave nothing in. They were resources for them.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah.
the issues.
I stand firm behind my point.
And right now they're making it so easy because now they're allowing registrants for voting.
I know that's another concern.
Let's talk about
I
that.
totally disagree with that.
As you know, the
Another way
Toro
to
and
stuff
Crew
ballots.
has determined that they're going to reopen registration so that you can register to vote now and vote in the general election.
Next week.
That's crazy. That's
the
ridiculous
runoff.
to me.
In the runoff,
yeah.
right, in the runoff election.
Makes no sense.
None
It's
whatsoever.
illegal.
No,
Close
it's
it.
illegal.
Close it.
Of course,
The
this is entirely
statute
illegal.
specifically, and you can look at it, audience, it's called Title 18, Section 91. Specifically tells you when you can register people to vote. 30 days before general election or 5 days after an election. That's the only time you can open it up.
Yeah.
But if you did 5 days after an election, it is for you to register coming up for another election, not
Not
for
the
the
runoff.
runoff.
Correct.
The runoff is still part of the general election that you're in.
Yeah.
And you
Oh my
haven't
God, this is
certified
ridiculous.
you haven't certified any
Exactly.
votes. You haven't completed the general election for what we're in now.
So we
in
still in the
essence, what
election
you're
mode.
doing is that you'll come in to register to vote while an election is going on. That's what you're doing. And if you even treat the runoff election as an election, well, you can't register about 30 days before an election, and we're not 30 days before an election.
So you're right.
It's illegal.
Correct.
Okay, so now you're registering to vote, and mark my word, watch them there, allow me to register to vote, and then cast all the ballot.
Turn wrong and right.
Watch and see.
This is going to be.
I think that we're gonna have a governor around June,
Oh Lord.
because by the time people done filing lawsuits for all the confusion that's going on around here, by the time they order a new election, it's gonna be June.
So
That's
you-
what's gonna
What do you
happen.
think?
I think this is gonna be the first year in the history of Virginia that they've ever ordered another election.
Let me ask this: you think that the votes can change in terms of candidates?
percentage-wise?
Change on what it is percentage, right?
percentage
Not
will
necessarily percentage.
I think
but
I think
the
that's
leader,
something that
I
we
think
do
the
need to
leader who's
explain,
leading
though.
will win eventually, because you're going to have a runoff at 37% of the vote.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not a runoff. A runoff is 48, 47.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a runoff. I mean,
Yeah, 2 point
a
difference.
runoff ain't
Not
a
a
10
whole
point
10,
difference.
yeah.
That's not a runoff.
Correct.
Make it
And-
worse, they're saying so many craziness on the radio that you're hearing people actually coming out and saying, watch, they either voted for them in the general or had intentions of voting for them in a runoff. But after they're hearing the second in command for the candidates, they're like, no, I don't want to have
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
with
yeah.
them.
No, but also think about it. There was also X amount of disqualified votes.
That they tried to
that
requalify?
no. Let's don't talk about the requalified,
Trying
but
to
that were
requalify.
not counted
Me hear that
against
Yeah.
either candidates, and
Right.
those person, a lot of those persons probably voted for the leading candidate as well. So you may find
But
out.
I understand what they're trying to do now, once again, is putting the symbol voting. Now,
Let's remember,
there are going
right?
to be 2 people on the ballot. Jesus Christ. You need to have a symbol. You can't pick one or the other?
No.
I mean, no, you're not going to have a ballot anymore.
No, it's-
so,
that's too difficult.
why do you need to have a symbol? If you want to vote for Dana, shade in Dana. I don't understand. Or you want to vote for Map, shade in Map. Why is there a need to have a symbol? Because it's only going to be 2 people, a
Correct.
Democrat and an independent.
And for-
That's how it's gonna
so
be
that
there.
the 2% who voted in the general can come and have the pleasure of shading in during the runoff.
We don't
Because if they don't
understand-
have it, they're going to die, and then they're going to go to one.
In the state of Ohio, about 4 million people voted. Right? I think they use the same machines that we use.
Alabama.
And by 7:30, they knew who their governor was. 4
Alabama, the
million
same
people.
thing.
4 million people. And by 7:30 tonight, they knew who their governor was.
When are we gonna know about our government?
Okay?
But let me take it a
And my
step.
thing is, their ballots are like this thick. They got all kind of thing going on. They got county commissioner, art secretary, and this. I mean, their ballots are this. You have to sit on there and go through and circle and go through. We have one sheet like
Back and
this,
front.
circle, flip over, circle. And it's a week later and we still ain't know nothing about our election.
I laughing, but it's not funny.
It's serious.
It's very embarrassing.
I mean, you can't. I don't know, 25,000 votes. You can't count.
But the concern again is, and see, and you opened up with this that the leader, where is the monitoring by the federal government, by the United States Department of Justice. At least,
Do they look like they care?
and that's the thing, they don't care.
And, I called, and the response that I got was, well, they try not to get involved in local elections unless there's some specific fraud going on that will lead to an indictment. They don't get involved.
Well, I mean, my civil rights is being affected, and you not doesn't want to get involved.
I'll tell you what they say. They don't get involved. And we can't depend on our AG to get involved.
No, not at all.
So nobody's gonna get involved.
Correct.
Not especially when the AG trying to bring contracts to businesses that ain't even properly sold yet
Correct. But
and get operating agreements signed.
Oh God, let me
yeah,
let me
let me go to let's deal
finish
with
the election
Yeah.
and then we deal with that confusion.
But let's talk about the candidates who placed for the senatorial race.
Which one?
The senatorial race.
yes.
And then we can go to the
I
last
think
one.
those are locked in though. As far as the senatorial
They
is
are.
concerned,
They
I
are.
think they're locked in. I don't think much
for
change is
our
gonna happen.
favorite,
What?
party giver.
The truckster?
Yeah, man. She still
but
feels
she's
that
again that,
she still feels that
right
she
in.
belongs
Hey.
there.
What's the can?
She can feel it. That's her right to feel.
Whoever counted for she learned to count at Miss Manga school. Because clearly they have not figured out what the numbers are and how far away they are
Yeah.
from the other
They're
numbers.
very
The but you know what though? Being that I don't trust Toro and crew, I can't say that she on your team because he probably got some ballots somewhere sitting on the side. Or people got with stickers just holding out. You never know. I don't
Right,
trust
right,
them.
right.
And so,
But she's out.
the math portion of me says it is almost virtually impossible to get to Nelly's the lowest one, 44
Yeah,
something.
Nelly.
It's virtually impossible to get to that
Nelly.
point when you only got 2,100
It's 21, I saw it was 15.
It's 1455, but remember you have to for writings you have to count those people who actually did the ballot that may have
Early
the
voting?
people early voters.
Only voted,
Oh.
you have to, an absentee.
And
That
absentee
you have to
people.
count those.
Which incident I understand they already started counting absentee ballots. When the law provides you have to wait until 10 days after the election before you can start to count absentee ballots. But
And that would make what? Friday. There was
right,
a 6 vote
that's
day.
but the problem is you got 4 days to the run out.
Yeah.
But by law, you can't count until 10 days after because the absentee ballots have to be postmarked by the date of the election, which means you have to wait for them to get
Lord.
in to the territory. That's why they tell you can't count until 10 days after the election.
Make sure everything
I understand.
reaches
But then let's take a look. I wasn't surprised.
And I'm sorry, one more thing. The reason why that would happen, and nobody would have more concern about that, is because ordinarily, even the absentee ballots coming in, they don't really make that much of a significant difference. And so, have you already been finished counting already? Probably would have known whether we need a runoff or don't need a
But
runoff.
did they tell us how many absentee ballots were mailed out?
500.
500 were mailed out.
500?
Oh, that's it?
In
Really?
each district?
500 in St. Croix.
Oh,
St. Croix, okay.
that's still low.
That is
That
low.
is pretty low.
And 600, 600. No, it's low because the people who would have done an absentee ballot were
Right.
allowed to
Voted.
come into early vote.
Yes.
And so
okay.
it would have been 1,100 if we didn't have an early voting provision.
Right.
So 600 people voted early, including the people who would have voted that Saturday and Sunday after the Supreme Court telling them you can't think.
Let's talk about
But
that. The
those
600.
don't count? Those ain't supposed to get picture?
No,
Leave me
they
alone.
do.
It should be
I was.
picture.
Which the 600 only voted.
No. For the Saturday
group,
and
the
Sunday
people
when
that
they
voted
still
Saturday and Sunday
allow.
after the Supreme Court will take your name after that.
Right.
Correct. No, but let's talk about the people in who placed. I wasn't surprised that
Talk about what?
the people who placed.
Oh yeah, I wasn't surprised at Kurt at all.
No, I'm surprised Kurt. No, but actually, I wasn't surprised at the bottom
the top
with
three.
K-Part being out because that was
Oh,
a
she was
given.
coming out when you're from the
Yeah.
primary.
Yeah.
And then McGregor.
That why I
so-
say?
yeah, I said that. But McGregor,
That's my
because I'm validated, you know.
Oh my God.
No, I said that not because
Nobody here didn't disagree with you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That
nobody
one had to
disagree with
figure
you.
out. I mean, you could have. The rating was on a while.
it was McGregor run strong, but I knew also he wasn't
wasn't
gonna
gonna place.
he wasn't gonna place. I know he wasn't gonna place.
To tell you
But
the
he
truth,
can try again
he
next
run
time.
higher.
So Sanis surprised me in terms of how
yeah.
high he ran.
High.
Senator
Yeah.
Sanis ran high. I think he was number
Number
3.
three.
Yeah, so he ran.
But
high.
Sanis got a solid following.
But he has
though.
a
He has
solid
a solid.
that really isn't that much the Democrats.
No,
Right.
no, his own is a broad base,
broader base.
Hispanic
so
vote.
then voted in frame after.
Yes,
alone?
yes. Mostly Hispanics, and then they got the Democrats who vote.
But were you surprised that Nelly was number 7?
No,
I was.
I wasn't.
Yes and no.
I said
Yes and no.
Nelly was going to
Yes
run
and
that
no.
low.
I was surprised because I think besides the Hovensa issue, when she voted in the affirmative, she relatively does a good job. So what kind of make me like, okay, well, I could see how she would run so low is because of that, the same Hovensa thing when she
Yeah,
voted
I
in the
think so.
affirmative.
I think
and
that's
a
what
lot
it
of
is.
people weren't happy
Upset
with
with
that
that.
at all.
I know
So because they didn't see it coming. You know what I'm saying? Because she had, initially she was so, strong and
Against
voice
it.
how right.
But this
how
was-
Well, you know, I
opposition
think
is.
you're right because look at Stannis. He voted for it, and he was number 3,
But,
right?
Yeah.
But I think the
But
difference
he
in those two
consistent.
is that right. He's got people say, well, he's gonna vote for it.
Yeah.
We ain't surprised at that, right? But you come spin wrong,
And vote.
Right.
and with conviction, I'm gonna vote for it.
Yeah, and sleep good at night.
Yeah.
And sleep good at night.
I think you're right. I think people are more like, wait a minute, let me watch she
Something,
closely.
something wrong.
But if you think about it, also, this was a third term. Am I
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
And out of all it, and this of the 3 terms thus far, this was the weakest.
Yes.
This was her weakest performance
That's
as
right.
senator.
That's right.
Her first term, she was strong. The second term, she had that cancer issue. She was pushing, and people saw her and heard her. This term, after she got in,
She was very quiet.
very quiet.
Yeah.
The only time she was vocal was this Hovensa issue, and beyond that, then again she went back to sleep. And so Nelly and Unit were going to pull that low. I thought she and Sanders would have run.
Neck
But
and
again,
neck.
Right.
what changed it up to me, what changed up the fortune for Senator Sanders more so was Senator Hansen not being in the race.
Could be.
Senator Hansen not being in the race.
Could be.
But let's talk about that. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Back in a moment. And welcome back to VI Voices. We're having our topics as we're discussing a lot of the issues that have been going on in the last few weeks with our elections and some other matters. And we're just talking about the rundown.
Correct.
For purposes of St. Croix. We know Kurt Vialet was number one, is the number one vote getter, followed by Novell Francis, then Samuel Sanis, then Neville,
No,
Kenny
Gittins.
Kenny Gittins, then Neville James, Terrence Patrick
Nelson,
Nelson, and Nellie
O'Reilly.
O'Reilly. You know what though? That's a good bunch. You
I
know.
was just
That's
about to say,
a good-
I think we
I
have a
really
solid
like
group.
that's a
Solid
solid
group.
group
Solid
of
group
people
of
genuinely
people, right.
because St. Croix.
Right.
Yeah, and you're gonna really see those, to me, some of the weaker senators, ideology-wise and philosophy-wise, that are gonna really have to either go along or they're gonna truly expose themselves,
Right.
because they really have some men in there, are some senators, some candidates who are basically have some strong philosophy, some strong
Yeah.
ideologies when it comes to St. Croix and leadership and the Virgin
I
Islands
see
as a
them as a
whole.
much more cohesive group of people
Correct.
who stand and said, this ain't working for St. Croix, so we ain't doing that.
Right.
I like that group.
Primarily that Port Vialet, man.
Oh,
He
yes.
I really feel in
Oh,
his
yes.
passion in terms of pushing St. Croix and how he can get things going.
Now, I saw Neville
Wow.
James last week, and he said to be sure to thank everybody here at VI Voice because he genuinely believes that's the only reason he won. From his 2 appearances on VI Voices. And you know what though? I'm glad he's back because he never should have been out.
Right, of course.
Okay?
I totally
He
agree.
never
with
should have been on the legislature. And I'm glad that he's back. It's an experience. What's going to be interesting, however, is to see who will be Senate president.
Yes.
It's a positive of Sanders.
Well, no, going to be a Democrat.
There's the Democrat.
Because the Democrats is going to be leading unless they
And it
break
wouldn't
and
be
have a
Senate.
different kind of
And
So
not
we
only
never
Senate.
had a majority leader who's not is non-Democrat.
No, but they have 11 Democrats.
Was
They
a
have
majority
11
leader,
Democrats.
not the
But Senate
president.
Right.
You have 11
Which don't make no sense to me. How you be a Democratic majority, but you have an independent majority
But
leader.
that wasn't what Stella, you know why?
Yeah, that makes no sense. None at all.
Yeah.
And in the regular world, in the
No,
regular
no,
party
no,
world,
no,
then
no.
all of them would have been censored. Every last one of them would have been censored.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And that's the problem. So I really think this legislature is going to work well.
Well,
gonna
the
work well.
presidency is going to be on St. Croix.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's either going to be Samuel Sanis or Neville James.
The delegate to Congress, Crucian.
Right?
Governor,
Crucial.
Crucial.
No matter how you slice it.
Whichever, whoever wins.
always we ain't got no excuse.
We don't. If we don't get it together this time, then it's really
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
And that leads us to ADR.
No,
Yes.
That is just ABR.
Yeah, no.
That's
No.
what you want to go to
We-
next.
That's what I want
We
to
ain't
go
done
now.
talking
We
about
got
what
to-
we
we
got
got
to
to-
do.
delegate.
We ain't got pass the Senate
no.
yet.
Rocky
You know
Lightbird
what?
got back in.
We're going to be talking for the
Light bulb.
Senate from now till next
No, no, but we're going to get to ABR. Rocky
I
Lightbird-
think Yoki needs to talk about ABR.
Yeah.
But we're going to get to them. Rocky Liebert,
got back in.
he really campaigned nowhere. I mean,
No,
I-
when he did
But-
that,
no,
Look
but-
at who his
but I got
competition
to-
was.
that wasn't really.
No, but my thing
already
about
had-
nobody see the thing
well, he
about
didn't do
it.
that back.
But you know,
It was like a 2-1.
no, but do you know what happened?
That's true.
Do you know what happened with the guy Jones? It's the same thing that happened in the primary. The Democratic Party did not give him enough chance to showcase himself and really get a voice. So to him, they did a disservice. Remember, I talked about the disservice they did in how they ran, how they really showcased their candidates, and that's what they did to him. They really did him a disservice.
What I think should happen is I think that the senator at large should be what it is really, that you could run from anywhere, and that in the St. Thomas St. John district, 2 of the 7 must be from St. John.
Correct, you're right.
And let St. John alone vote for who they're going to send
Yeah,
to the Senate.
Yeah.
Or just give them their own district.
But
correct.
that goes back to the
Give
whole
them
thing.
back
talking
their
Right.
about
Give them
restructuring.
back their own district.
That goes back
Because
to
that
whole
confusion,
restructuring thing.
because look at them. The people of St. John, if you heard them calling in, they were not happy
No.
that Rocky Leverett won. But he won because the majority of the votes came from either here or St. Thomas,
Correct.
not from people who actually live in St.
And I
John.
know, and I know definitely here. When
Oh, yeah,
Rocky
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
Rocky has a
St.
following here.
St. Croix carries the delegate and it carries the senator at large.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, but it showed that in the primary with Stacey and Sean Michael.
Okay, now that was a shellacking. Stacey and this Vince Danette. I only 90% of the vote went to Stacey. Well, what was this, a caucus? I mean, okay, that's one way we could certify. Okay, right? We could certify that.
You can stamp that down.
Yeah,
Stamp that down.
that's a done deal.
But you
90% of the vote has gone to her.
But who? I didn't even realize
He didn't
it
come to
was
their voices.
That there was
Vince Danette. I didn't know Vince Danette.
Yeah.
I didn't know him until
every-
like maybe
last
last
time.
every cycle he runs, you know, I think he does most of his campaigning on Facebook, which is probably to his detriment.
Probably
because
I don't know anything.
Maybe he has a
about
small
that.
budget.
And then when I really paid attention to him, but then what happened to Carnegie for being as far as the Republican head, and the same thing applying the same thing that he talking about Republican galvanizing.
But they got
behind
split.
the Canada.
They
The
got split.
Democrats though, the Democrats got
Yeah,
that
but
info.
yeah, but no, but
I rogue
they
Democrats.
they have
No.
they have what? They have yeah, they have their own infighting, but they'll get together when they need to.
Thank
To
you.
do exactly what you see what's going on now.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
That's but that's nationally.
Yeah, but it's what's going on right now here.
Yeah, locally.
Okay.
I'm not rogue.
I am a Democrat.
In
I'm a
the true
Democrat.
sense of it.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
a Democrat.
So those
No,
that are, the
they're
ones
the
that
rogue
doing
ones.
the rogue
Yeah,
ones that doing
correct.
foolishness. Okay.
When they allow working men and women to lose to lose their salaries, and not that you can't be Democrat. They
But
don't
did you not
subscribe to
hear-
the fallacy.
but I was-
Like I said months before, they need a position, and I believe
They
the
need a platform.
ICM,
Where's the platform?
ICM party need to step up.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
The
they-
ICM party need to step up, and they need a more of a voice.
You need
and
the
more of a-
ICM party of Cyril King.
Yes, that's
Correct.
right.
But my question is, where is this platform? They were talking, grumblings all throughout the election
Ain't no
cycle
platform.
that there's a platform coming. Where's the platform for this Democratic Party?
There is none.
There's none, and that's the problem.
Focus is you.
Oh wait, didn't you see someone on the
Yeah,
show?
that's
I wasn't
it.
here.
That's it.
Was he
Yeah,
on the
he
show?
was.
No, because Cecil sat here and spin it and said the problem with the Virgin Islands isn't the leadership that they elect, it's the people, because they keep electing the same people to put them in.
Cecil come here and try to run the voices.
Yeah,
And
just
Democrats-
with-
Tell me what he gonna answer and what he gonna
Nah.
answer, and he gonna stick to one thing and one thing alone. When we
Thank
gonna say
you.
actually nothing. He
Cecil-
didn't say that specifically,
Wow.
but that was the attitude.
Cecil had a spin going on. But
Yeah, of
that's,
course.
that's
Actually,
it.
And Clinton
actually,
handled
that's
it?
in a way,
We
in a
handled
way that's what
Cecil.
he did say.
But he
Yes.
kind of did set up
Yeah,
a
he
Chono.
did say that.
And we
Like,
gonna
he
all
come in
remain
here-
friendly.
Yes.
And all of this foolishness.
Yeah.
Like anybody was going against him, nobody was going
Nobody,
against him.
but Cecil came here just to talk over talk us.
Yeah.
And he said that and he
He did
came
say
to
that.
over talk us. He didn't come to address the issues that was salient to
The Democratic
the
Party.
Democratic Party.
Despite
After
sitting
this
with
election,
with
he
two
just
registered
came to
Democrats,
overtalk
that was
us.
his- Yeah.
And that was
That's
fine. He
interesting.
admitted what I want him to admit it, and that was it. That was satisfied.
Which
Once
was?
when he said that the Democratic Party has not been working for the people of the Virgin Islands. Once he said that, that was satisfying
Wow.
to me.
He did say that. He did agree
wow.
with that
That's
statement.
interesting.
And that's where it all boils down to. And I'm gonna say this. And if we can go into the gubernatorial race.
Yes.
And Yoki hinted about this. I'm gonna say, I'm not even gonna hem and haw. People know my position. I voted Matt Potter in the election, but I am not. When I sit here, it's about getting information out to the people. And one thing I learned about the Christensen Atlee campaign, they want to organize campaign because they continue to shift. They began with the time is a time for Donna, and then for about 4 weeks out, they come with this, switching their slogan. Our focus is you. And that's not a quantifiable or measurable statement or measurable slogan. Can you measure our focus is you? How do you, if they are elected, can you truly compare what they have done, what they said they were going to do when they were running, and when they're going to run for re-election in 2018, I'm going to say to the electorate, no, you cannot. Because it's a very soft, malleable kind of thing. You can't really grasp it. And to me, and I continue to see them. And then they focus so much on bashing and beating down
And
That's the
campaign.
focus.
and,
Yeah,
and,
that was a
and,
Yeah.
and the other and the opposition, and they didn't craft out a plan. It seemed that they were following Mr. Mapp's lead each at every turn. He put forth a plan, then they scrambled to put forth their plan. So,
Which was weak.
so again, you want to know if with all of this experience that the campaign touted with Christensen and Mr. Otley, why were they playing catch up instead of actually leading and saying this is what we're gonna do with our verdict?
Well, you know, I said early on in the show that if she did not win decisively in the primary,
She would have a
that it would
fight.
be very
Did say that.
difficult
Did say
in the general election. She got 33% of the vote in the primary, which means
Did say that.
2/3 of her party voted against her.
Against her.
Correct.
Okay? We're now in a general election,
She can't
and
break
before
40
Toro shenanigans, she was at 30,
30 something.
30,
She was in a low
31%.
Yeah.
right? Again, same, no more than 33 she got in primary. With his shenanigans, she's now at 37. Going into a general election, going into a runoff election with 37% of the vote, where your closest person is 10 points ahead of you.
She hot, man.
That's a problem.
It is
And
a-
what that then says also is not only did your Democrats really didn't vote for you, non-Democrats didn't
They
vote for
vote for
you.
you.
They voted for other people.
Correct.
And so, you know, I think she's going to have a difficult time. I'm not quite sure really that the numbers are going to change other than to solidify the 50% plus one come November election, unless they do some kind of new confusion
Correct.
between now and then.
But it's also this is a new election, and the campaign should
They should be focusing on issues.
Issues.
And they're
They're still,
not.
and they're still
Yes,
not.
I have
they're
to, I
still
have
on the
to say,
bastion.
I have to say, and I like personally, I like Dana Christensen.
Yes, I
know
like
her.
that.
I do too.
I know her personally, and I really believe, I
She's
really
the
and truly
fire
believe
her
that
campaign committee.
her heart is in the
In
right place. You
place.
know, I really believe that. But the people that she has around her,
Yeah.
I convinced
That's who
those
kill
are the
her.
ones that bring her down. I convinced
and
her that,
I'll
and
be
not only
honest.
that, the fact that she didn't even. I think she was getting bad advice or bad counsel in
Still
terms of
getting
how to send across a message or how to get her message across or put forth in terms of providing a plan. Matt had a plan. Matt has a plan, and he came out with it, and he came
Still been hitting
wrong
it.
or right. He stick with it, and this is what
Exactly.
we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna achieve it.
And people
They
gonna
didn't do that.
gravitate towards
Right, of
something
course,
that's
of
going to
course.
give them a little
He could be
And
talking
then
and
in
pie in the
it-
sky.
But then
in
you
the
know what?
beginning, I
You
was backing
also,
Donna.
you also have people who like to vote for the winner.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they think they're going to be the winner, so
That's
say,
true
I
though.
vote for the winner.
Yeah, that's true.
There's no real science to it. We don't plan. But he's the winner.
That's
I
very,
don't have a
that's
thing.
immature, but a lot of us,
immature, but that's what
a lot
people
of us-
do it.
right? Because I can remember as a younger man, I used to be like, oh, well, them they gonna win.
We want to say I vote for them and
Make
he
it
lose.
not right. Exactly.
But listen what Yoki said. Yoki, what were we gonna say?
I said in the beginning I was actually for Donna. I was backing her. I
And
went
you
to her
sat and
meetings.
said that?
Yeah,
You
and
did say that
I
for
did.
real, yeah.
I was supporting Donna, and then I started to hear the campaign and the nastiness and the viciousness that
Right.
came out, and I was like, I don't want to be a part of that. And I actually backed off, and then I started to look at the other candidates. And I'll be honest, as they came here and they sat and we interviewed them, that's when I started to formulate my decision.
And
You
it's-
know,
and
and it ended up being Matt, because really and truly, out of all of them, he has been the only one that has come out with a plan, like you said,
Straightforward,
and stick,
right, and
with,
stick
it.
with it.
Don't care what they come with all the
Yeah.
mess to knock him left and
He
right.
stay with his plan,
He
right.
stay with his plan, and I think above all, that is really what for a lot of people, they just saw that as the light. And as a martyr of flame, they just kept going to it because he just kept saying the same thing. This is what I am giving you. You know, doesn't matter what's coming here and there. I have this for you, and if you want it, then you're gonna come with me.
I think in this runoff, in event there's a runoff, she's gonna get beat terribly.
No,
She's gonna get beat terribly, and then what was so
Maybe Brian did
detrimental?
that.
What was so detrimental is the fact that they came on the radio and addressed foolishness that's on
Man.
social media.
Yeah,
and
that was
come
kind-
and
that was kind of
That's
weird.
I mean,
to
me, that is nonsense. Listen, you don't even address that. That's like you stay above that. You giving that life. You understand? The only way you address it if somebody, if for example in a forum when somebody
Bring
bring
it up in a
bring it up
forum.
and Derek, and then you even dismiss it at that point. Listen, people gonna say what they're gonna say. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. This is what I gonna do. I mean, I wish them well, and you move on.
And if they being
But
that
they're
petty
not
on the
doing that.
radio,
On
imagine
the
when
radio,
they become
exactly.
government. We done went through 8 years of vindictiveness. We cannot take another
Yes,
4 more
exactly.
years.
It
of
don't-
this
it don't
kind of
look
crap.
right. It don't
And that's
look
what,
right, man.
and honestly, I've monitored things on Facebook, and I'm gonna say this: when I've listened to people talk to me about the MAP part of campaign, and it continues to be very personal about Mr. MAP. And they continue to make it about everything other than leadership and not rumors. But and when I'm seeing, like, when I step to them, I say, okay, this is the plan, this is the issue. When will this Christians Athlete campaign be all about the people? Don't tell me the focus is on you. Give me something clear, something measurable, and tell me where do we see these Virgin Islands in 4 years and in 8 years? Can I count 1,000 jobs? Yes. If Mr. Map give us 1,000 jobs in 4 years? He say he can. If he gives us 750 jobs, doesn't that relate to about a 75%? So isn't that a close to a passing grade?
Yeah.
If he gives you only 500 jobs,
good.
that's a failing grade. Not because it's about 50%, but it's measurable.
Right.
And we can all quantify it, and we can all touch and say, oh, and we can all see 500 jobs. You
But when
can
I
see
say-
one job.
I understand what you're saying in terms of a grade, but I say that's good because that's 500 jobs that wasn't even present prior to him running.
Correct,
So
but
that's
but we all can measure in different ways. But I'm
Right.
saying, but we want something that we can touch. We want something that we can grade. We as voters shouldn't just be get caught up in quick slogans and songs and whatnot. Yeah,
Well, unfortunately, a lot of us do.
a lot. Yes,
because
And
the
so-
focus is you.
yes.
But the question is, who is the you?
but
Because
that's like-
she even got people around her who's talking about the opposition only has a lot of ghetto people around. What kind of
And
foolishness
that's
is
the
that to say?
problem.
Like ghetto people don't need representation. That's nonsense.
And that's so wrong, because I grew up in Paradise. Paradise may have been considered one of the ghettos, but
I
I
grew
am
up in Kennedy.
But yes, I may have been birthed out in ghetto, but that doesn't describe me nor label me, and that doesn't define me.
But you know what that
Of course
does?
it doesn't.
That shows an elitist type of mentality.
Right.
Because if you're going to go and say that your opponent has only ghetto people around you,
Yeah, that's
then
man.
that is telling me as a voter that, hey, you think that your back don't smell, you understand, and that you are better than me and better than probably at least 60 to 70% of the community. You know, and why would I want to
But
have
you know what,
somebody
though?
there like that?
I'm going to go back to what some of the boys said a little while ago. That the delegates' heart is definitely in the right place.
I really
You're
believe
right.
that.
Genuinely,
Bad
and
people
she,
around
but she
her. I
just
really
has
believe
Some bad
the
people
wrong
around
set of
her.
people
Yeah,
around her.
man.
Correct. And,
Yeah.
and, see, and I'm going to tell you another sentiment I'm hearing from this campaign, that they have now flung in everything that has been bad about this administration and Governor De Young. I say, no, he's not a true Democrat. I don't know if you guys have heard that.
Yeah.
Election, they have heard, and people have sat here in this chair. Election, they have heard that. I mean, come on. Give Jackie Jacket. The Democratic Party, which the delegations happen to belong to, and some of us
Which
belong to
took
the
him
same.
in after he called them Democrats.
Which took him
When
in.
Turbo shellacked him, and then by
Yes.
722, his campaign headquarters in Federal State, what the old lime tree next to what the French restaurant her name? Saint Tropez?
Yes.
Was shut down.
Yeah.
How much people? 6 people are run that. 6 teams run that year, and there was no runoff.
Exactly.
Okay? And we hear from him from 2002 to he resigned in 2006.
Correct.
And to
And
hear
the
these
party
Democrats want to run the
embraced the
place
man.
now, still talking their nonsense about where were you at this commercial?
Yeah.
Where were you when la 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 la? No, well, he
You're
wanted public
absolutely
office.
correct.
Well,
But
he was
some-
really in his private life.
No, that's what
And I'm like, but my point is, that man, John DeYoung, lost in 2002, and you ain't hear a peep out of him
So when you ran again.
until 2006.
You hear
there was a
anything before?
non-incumbent.
Right.
There
You
was a
hear anything
non-incumbent,
before
right?
he ran?
So it was a free-for-all race, right? And what does he do? Come to Democrats, and what do they do? Because they
Embrace.
feel going to win. Okay,
They
yeah,
embrace
come,
him, man,
come.
yeah.
And he goes in there and completely creates
Mash it up.
dissent
Yeah.
and all kind of confusion within the Democratic
And-
Party.
and nothing about it-
or exacerbated it, I should say.
And the funniest thing about it,
That's
4 years they were with him. 8 years they were with him, because they were with him with the re-election. They never complained about John DeYoung.
Never.
But now that he's no longer gonna be governor, then he's the reason why everything is bad in the Virgin Islands.
And the
No,
man got the audacity to come on our show and talk about they doing things in house.
No.
And they how is that?
yes,
how they
yes.
take
He
care
sent
of
a
their
letter.
take care
They
of
sent
their
it's
issues.
in-house.
But
House.
they'll turn around and they'll fire their national committee woman because she supported one candidate over another.
No, she supported another Democrat,
Another Democrat over another. Yeah.
No, that's not it.
The
But
national committee woman.
No, and that's what
For your party.
No, but my question to you, I have been labeled, because some people met me and said, you're a disloyal Democrat. I said, what do you mean disloyal Democrat? I'm a loyal Democrat. I subscribe to the democratic principle. Your party just haven't. My thing about it is, where's the loyalty in the Democratic Party? Because think about it. How many Democrats you know who are registered actually are active members of the party? And you're telling me, look at who get in. How many them vote symbol? How many them?
I get it all the time too.
Thank you.
They call me and say that you need to come back like as if I left. Come back to the party and stop going out this week against the party because you have to be a part of the party, tenants and the party, whatever. And I always have to tell them, when you stop allowing independents to be the majority leader in your majority, then you can talk to me.
What did you say?
You don't have no response to that. Because I know what party that is.
Correct.
Right.
No,
That's the party that I would have known.
correct. When you're majority leader now, think about it. When you're majority leader at that time, remember one time Senator James was the majority leader,
Right?
and you had a Democratic governor, and he had people like.
But they won't listen to the majority.
Thank
leader.
you. He couldn't lead them because they would not follow him.
But guess what? You said something about everybody trying to blame Governor DeYoung now. All these other issues stand out from him. Could that be the reason why everybody's so up in arms and now all of a sudden they're into this ABRVI? That's a segue. ABRVI issue?
I do think.
Do you think that's a reason why everybody's now
Let's
so...
hear, let's
yeah,
hear
let's hear from
Yoki's-
Yoki.
let's
Let me
hear
turn this
Yoki's
way. Let me turn this way.
Let's hear Yoki's perspective on the matter.
Okay, talk to us about that.
Well, the ABR, we have two companies, ABR, the parent group and then the subsidiary. The subsidiary, as it came out last night during the hearing, was formed, I believe they said 3 days before the yes vote, the second yes
You
vote.
believe that?
Yeah, you know. And
Well, you can always go to the... and look.
Oh my
yeah,
God, yeah.
you know, you heard the senators ask if the company was in good standing, and the AG saying no, it wasn't in good standing. And I think
Okay, go ahead.
and then, you know, they're asking, I think it was one of the St. Thomian senators, because last night they were just whipping them left.
Whip.
Yeah, they were taking blows.
With what?
Yeah. And one of the other questions that was asked is, how do you want us to ratify something? And we can't see what it is we're ratifying when it came to this trade secret formula for determining the fuel that they were supposed to be giving us as a discount, which I find strange because I don't see how we can get a discount if within the operating agreement you have where the fuel rack is going to be controlled by a third party. Okay, so with that, that's crazy.
Apparently you only one that found this string.
Yeah, you know. And then you also have where, you know, basically they're saying the purchase cannot go forward until now understand how Benz has not been sold. ABR has no money.
None.
They haven't secured any financing.
None.
What came out is that they can't secure financing or get funding until the legislature goes and ratifies the operating agreement.
So this is another Diageo kind of
No,
concept.
this ain't Diageo, this is
What's
Paddy
on Diageo?
Joseph.
No, because okay, go ahead.
No,
We'll
because
proceed.
with Diageo they had money.
Yeah.
Nobody had
no,
money. for
Diageo
this.
didn't have money.
Diageo,
Diageo,
they did. Yes, they
They
did.
They have billions of dollars.
Diageo
No.
had
We
money.
just built stuff for
We
them.
just
Exactly.
We just
No,
give them
no.
extra.
That's
Our
different.
deal with Diageo, it wasn't the big company Diageo. Our deal was with Diageo
That was
VI.
fine.
Yeah, but
But
they
still,
had
but
they had
money.
backing.
Yeah, they had backing.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Neither the parent nor the child have money
Right.
in this situation.
Okay.
Them people just start the other
So
day.
it's not-
when they just
Exactly.
back.
A lot of venture
And-
capitalists we have funded in the Virgin Islands.
Is that what you said, Colin?
Now, this issue, people became really entrenched and involved in this whole thing because we had another company who said that they were being
Monarch.
locked out
Yes.
Monarch.
of Monarch
Monarch
Energy.
Energy
Energy,
Partners.
right.
And
Right.
you had an opportunity to
Speak with
speak
Daryl
to them today, interview
Hardy.
to them.
Right, with Daryl
Well,
Hardy.
Yoki was
and-
on site. Let we hear from Yoki.
Well,
all
that's
the way
it.
to
Well, Yoki did the interview, and
I
so-
remember when I was at the Judas Fancy issue, I had to speak about it and bring it to the show.
Yes,
Let's
but
come on,
guess
let's
what?
hear
Not only does she not have to speak about it herself, we do have the footage for all of you to see, and so today of Monarch Energy Groups, and we'll see what happens now. Back moment. Here's your interview.
Good morning. My name is Yoki Hanley, and we're doing a special report for VI Voices. I have with me today Mr. Bob Schrader, CEO of Monarch Energy Partners, as well as Darrell Hardy, the Managing Director of Monarch Energy Partners. And we are sitting here with them today to discuss their plans and a little bit of the bidding process of what they went through, and to just explain and shed a little bit of light on what we're now seeing happening in the lame duck 30th legislature with the ABR VI Hovenza whole story. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Schrader. You can quickly introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background on you, your company, and then we'll hear from Mr. Hardy.
Great. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Same here.
Great to be on the island. It's been a interesting trip so far. Yeah, my name is Bob Schrader. I am the CEO of Monarch Energy Partners. Monarch Energy Partners is a subsidiary offshoot of a company, Monarch Environmental, which has various companies. Monarch Environmental has been around 25 years. Actually, it'll be 25 years next month. We service the oil industry. I would say 90% of what we do is in the oil industry. The other is industrial, mainly utilities. What we do, we have field services crews that do maintenance, a fleet of vacuum trucks. We have facilities in Woodstown, New Jersey, Plant City, Florida. We do have an operation in West Africa and Nigeria. We service the needs of the big oil companies, from midstream, which is your refineries, your pipelines, to downstream, which is your gas stations. Again, we are a full service firm, which means we'll go out, do the maintenance, then we actually bring the material back to recycling facilities. We operate a recycling facility in Woodstown, New Jersey, as well as Plant City, Florida. But in Woodstown, New Jersey, we're one of 2 operating permits that can reprocess petroleum products.
Right.
So it's a reprocess, re-refine of existing products as opposed to crude. So we're skipping out one little step. However, we have been working at all the refineries in the Philadelphia areas, where Woodstown, if you look on the map, is 25 miles from Philadelphia. So we service there was 7 refineries at one point. Now there's 5 operating. Speaking of that, we'll go over the landscape a little bit of the refining process, and that answers some of the questions on how we got involved with this. The process has been, or the landscape has been such that big oil companies have run refineries for the longest time. That's been the trend. There was a term called the Seven Sisters. There were 7 big oil companies that ran everything.
Right.
That's changed over the years, and in the last couple years, specifically 2011 to now, there's been vast changes in the refining industry. In other words, you had, and I'll use Philadelphia because I'm very familiar with that, the refineries. You had Sunoco that owned 3 refineries. They now own none.
Wow.
You have ConocoPhillips, through different companies, own the refinery. They don't own that anymore. It's owned by an airline.
Okay.
You have Valero, which was a big company. They moved out. They have a private equity. But the trend has been that the big oil companies move out, and they're now in exploration. So this allows smaller companies that have experience and wherewithal to step in and rise in this economic landscape,
Right.
to be able to start these refineries. So that's been the trend, and that'll give you some history. Hess did have the refinery in Port Reading, New Jersey. They're out of it. They're in exploration now. So basically, we put a team together to be able to operate with the 30 years of experience that I have in the industry. We've worked along with many partners. There's, again, going back over hundreds of years, there's been refineries. There's a lot of very smart people, a lot of very experienced people that have run refineries right in that area. that now have changed hands and are available to do work. We were able to capture a lot of that talent, bring them aboard our team. So that's kind of our entree into that. But as you can see, how Hess, this is, you know, the last piece of the puzzle in this area. So the history is repeating from other areas, how it's happened here. However, that's Monarch's background within the industry. And again, I mentioned West Africa, I mentioned Nigeria. We deal with the biggest oil companies, Total, Awandu. Our model has been to go in, hire local people.
Right.
Nigeria, I'm the only one that's non-Nigerian. So we go in, we hire the people, we teach them how to run. I have people coming up to Woodstown just this week, so I have to fly out of here quickly, but for training.
Right.
We train them, we flew them in, we're gonna fly them back. They'll be able to train the trainer. So
It's
that's
very
kind of
important. So it's very important for you and for Monarch to make sure that you can empower the community where you are as much as possible.
And that's been our business model. And I mentioned earlier, the more training people have and the more they're taken care of, the better workers they're going to be. And that seems very simple. However, that's worked for us, and it may seem selfish that we want to take care of the workers so much that it's going to benefit us, but
A happy worker produces better than
that's
an unhappy
a
one.
known fact.
Right.
I want to mention one thing again, stepping back. Monarch was founded by me in my mother's basement. So I started with, I don't think it was a number 2 pencil. I didn't even have a pen at the time. But we grew. My first contract was with Sunoco. And fortunately, big oil follows big oil. So once we got Sunoco, all the other companies were interested in doing work with us. I have to take a step back, and it was an evolution of Monarch into the next step. And I mentioned a recycling facility in New Jersey. And when we had our vacuum trucks, we were always looking for a place to take it. We were always at another company's mercy. So we went out to find our own facility where we can process our material that we get from the oil companies. There was and this is how history kind of repeats itself, but there was a facility I found in Woodstown. It was an overgrown, weeds infested, almost a Superfund site, tanks. It was really disgraceful, and it was an eyesore to the community. And again, I'm saying this because sometimes the best way to predict the future is look at history.
Right.
So I went in to a bank who took it over, and very similarly, the way the environmental laws, the bank was about to have to clean this up.
Okay.
So I went into the bank, little me, and said, we're an environmental company, and I'd like to get this property, and we'll clean it up for you. So we negotiated a deal, and they said, you know, even if you're telling me you're going to clean it up, you have to put some collateral.
Right.
I was able to put collateral. I put my house up, so I put my entire life into that, to be able to tell them, not only I'm going to do what I say, but I'll back it up.
Right. You took a gamble.
With assets.
Yeah.
15 years later, it's a viable, more than viable. It's, as I mentioned, only one of 2 facilities in New Jersey that can do this. More importantly, out of that facility, we run about 60, 65 people. However, there's a huge problem with it. Our model was so good that it's too small. So we're out expanding. We're looking in close to an acquisition in South Carolina.
Oh.
So our major market is the East Coast, and again, the landscape has changed dramatically
Right.
over the last couple of years, and we were able to keep up with it and maintain our business model. So this stepping forward is a big step. However, it's something that we've done.
Right.
Going back to when you look at the key ingredients of the transaction like this, it's a land acquisition. We're looking at environmental cleanup. We're looking at dealing with the government, who was very instrumental in approving our contract.
Right.
So all these ingredients, as history repeats itself, is the same thing here. Albeit it's a much bigger scope, but we could go from the minor leagues to the majors very easy.
So, Mr. Hardy, you come in this to deal with the refining section, or?
I deal with both.
With
I
both.
deal with a little bit of everything.
I'd say he's mainly our governmental liaison. So
As well as the government side, which is, this deal is unlike most normal transactions in business because there is such a human side to this. It's not the matter of us just acquiring a piece of property,
Right.
operating it, restarting it, dealing with the EPA. There is, they're the people of St. Croix that have suffered, that have gone through 20 years of questions, 20 years of unexplained happenings that resulted from industry on the island in different ways. And they hear the EPA reports, they're seeing the people working. Of course, it was times down here, 2002, 2003, the Superfund people were here, but we were relieved to learn from the EPA that they were here just to do the work faster.
Right.
It's not an actual Superfund, it's a Ricker site. We've spoken with them in regards to Hovenza exclusively, and they let us know the pain of the past. And as we met, as our partners in our group met more and more, we learned that before we can worry about the operating side of the refinery, we had to speak to the environmental side, which was why Monarch fit so well into this whole project, because the assurances of cleanup must be a priority day
Right.
one. Extraction, the whole cleanup process. One of the senators, I don't want to misquote, I just said one of the senators last night even referred to how much is underground.
Yes,
How where have it gone? What is the impact? And when the government is asking, they don't have the answers, and that's
Leads to more
sad.
questions,
And that's
yeah.
so. We were not given the ability yet to go through the facility and bring our team down to do our own investigations.
I want to interrupt you a bit because our viewers are not exactly oil refinery savvy. So you're mentioning a term Superfund, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if you can explain so that our viewers can understand what that means.
Okay. It's a very, very sad Environmental Protection Act label that designates your area. It's good and bad. It designates your area for a special allotment of funds from the government. It says that some high extreme level of contamination or infiltration to systems, water systems, tables, has happened and occurred here over time, unacceptable to move forward. There's almost, you put an X on that spot. This must be done. This can't be excused, not next year, right now. That's the ultimate label that the EPA can place on the site is a Superfund.
So it means immediate, immediate remediation of any spills
And I think the EPA should be congratulated for what they did in 2001 and 2002 by even allowing the Superfund site to people to come.
Right.
Even though didn't receive the designation, they allowed the people because they knew that the work would be handled quickly, it'd be handled properly. But their presence made people think, oh, this is a Superfund site when it wasn't. But there is some levels of concern that need to be addressed, and I feel that we have years of experience in that aspect, in that area, particularly that I wonder if that's the one thing that chased a lot, besides the process that we had to go through. But I wonder if that's what chased a lot of oil companies away, because they're not equipped. That's contractors, that's hiring Monarch, that's that you hear these $700 million numbers up.
Right.
That's in addition to purchasing, that's in addition to operating capital.
Right.
Just to handle environmental. And then you're handling problems that you inherit from the past that they're not equipped for. They're not necessarily equipped for, or don't want to bother, don't want to put the money out there.
Right.
Especially in a volatile market. But
so even before you get to the business of actual refining, you still have all these, is it months of reclamation with the oil? Because I think the last what we looked at, it was about, maybe they were estimating several million gallons of oil. That was
It's a good question. I think we could do that in at the same time.
okay.
And that's, again, our plan. There's been many numbers thrown out as far as how many employees that we're going to hire. And I think we looked at it from a macro, from a big picture point of view, is that by opening the refinery, it's going to create other jobs. Now, would our environmental division be a full-time operator of the refinery? No. But the fact that we're there operating the refinery brings along environmental cleanup contractors, whether that be us or whomever.
Right.
But that's part of those ancillary jobs, the extra jobs, the multiplier effect, if you would. But yeah, we could do that in conjunction with operating. We have pretty intimate knowledge, I think we said, of the refinery. There's people on our team that go back to the Gulf Oil Refinery in Philadelphia from the 70s. So they've been around that long. As I mentioned earlier, very smart, very talented people.
So what put Hovensa on your radar for you to decide to say, well, this is somewhere that we'd like to get into, and what was, give us a little bit of idea of the whole birth of this.
This is Daryl, because this is really more of a human side of how we got involved than a business.
I have personally, I have cruising friends and family that are near and dear to my heart that live on St. Croix and the west side of St. Croix for years, for all of their life before they come to the States. And in 2012, we were together when the week of the closing.
Right.
And we were traveling together, and he said, I watched tears in their eyes. I listened to their stories. My phone kept ringing, and at that point, they said, what can we do? Help. We made calls right there. I remember we were in a hotel room. We made calls from the hotel room. I started making calls to our, we have oil connections, of course. What is the story? Trying to get the story. Who's going to pick this up? Who's going to take care of it? At that time, and I believe it was February, I'm not sure exactly when the doors closed, but the feedback that we received was Big Oil is at the table. No need to worry about it. There's a couple little issues, but Big Oil is there.
Right.
It's too valuable of a refinery, access point wise. There's some things that are unique to Hovensa that makes it so attractive to shipping line. I mean, it's just a beautiful, well position place.
Right.
And the consensus was, just wait a little bit, it's some red tape they got to jump through, but Big Oil is going to scoop this up, take care of it, things will be back to as it was. Even though we had the knowledge that Big Oil was going toward expiration, at that time it was really unrealistic to think that somebody wouldn't still acquire this.
Right.
It just made good business sense.
And so what do you think was the reasoning why it didn't pick up? Because, you know, I am a former employee of the plant, you know,
Okay,
so that
okay,
was something
okay.
that a lot of us, you know.
Did you think the same thing? Did you-
Yeah, we did. Even when we were there, because we
Okay.
saw hands change, so to speak, or you know, the
Understood,
beginnings
understood.
of, at least with the, you know, the Hess oil side
Understood.
of things changing. You know, so what do you think was probably part of the reason why, as you said, Big Oil didn't step in as many people thought that it would have?
In my business, I don't speculate on what others do because I'm not privy to what
Right.
information they receive. Someone to us in this process, it's obvious that the group at the table was privy to more information than we were. So I only can speak on what we know. They did their best. I know they sent teams down here,
Right.
and several Big Oil came down to look, evaluate. I don't know why they turned away though.
Walk us through the process. So you said you had your very close friends
Yes.
tell you that, you know, Hovenza is shutting down. It's you know, St. Croix is now taking a severe death blow. Now,
What they spoke to more than anything, and this is on a they spoke to the crime rate. That's what the two things that change the atmosphere:
right.
education and crime.
Lack of education means crime begins
Because
to
they're
increase.
feeders for each
right.
other.
Right.
The ultimate on top of that is jobs. I don't need to go to school if I don't have a job at the end waiting for me.
Exactly.
It's easier for me to get kids into school if they know they have a job waiting. So when you eliminate this job, you eliminate a lot of hope.
Right.
That was the fear that we spoke of in that room. That was why the urgency was there. If this goes, we're not talking about Philadelphia, we're not talking about Delaware, we're not talking about Galveston.
Right.
If the plant refinery closes in Galveston, it's not a big deal. I believe we spoke last night to that effect. It's not a big deal. Unions are there, they'll move on to the next refinery.
Right.
Philadelphia, they move on. They can go to Delaware, they can cross borders, they can cross. We're landlocked, we're in St. Croix. This is it. This is it. Those
Yeah.
workers have been looking for other employment. I have licensed workers from Hovenza working in a hotel doing laundry. I have licensed workers as taxi drivers now doing what they can to support their families
Right.
as honorable men do and women, excuse me, do. But it's not what's in their heart. It's not what they've done for the past 10, 15 years. It's not the same wages that their families was used to. It's not the same lifestyle.
Let me ask you a question. Going back to the whole issue that we have now with your bid, why do you feel, speaking out for Monarch now, why is it now that you're coming forward to say, well, you know, take a look at us, we have a better outlook of what's happening now, or what can be provided to the people of St. Croix in particular? You know, why should we really take a step back and say, no, you know, let's put all this process on hold if we can, and really begin to explore outward? Because we've had people who have said, you know, because as we know right now, we're dealing with a situation where the company has the money, not Monarch, but you've come forward and said that, you know, you are able to, and I believe you said last night, you know, just give me the go-ahead and by tomorrow you would see
Engineers,
action.
yeah.
Exactly.
There's two things that I want to bring forward in your statement. You said, why did we come forward now? No other company this is the only opportunity that companies were given to come forward to the
Okay.
public.
Okay.
The process was not made public
Okay.
at all. The process was, as they testified,
Right.
a closed bidding process between a private seller.
Right.
with government involvement.
Right.
So it wasn't a public process. It was supposed to be a business transaction, but
Right.
that part of the names who's at the table was not public knowledge. It wasn't
Right.
public not until the announcement, as I assume most processes are in biddings.
So you didn't know who the other companies were until the announcement was
I
made?
don't have a name that I wasn't in the process bidding
Right.
against ABI. I wasn't in the process bidding against
You just
other
know you
groups that I know
submitted,
at the
right?
table.
You just know you
It's
submitted
more
your
so,
information.
right? Because there wasn't a
Okay.
price tag.
Right.
It wasn't, it wasn't here, $350 for this. No,
Right.
It wasn't in that manner.
Right.
So you present your plan, you show your money, and then you come down, visit the island, and do your inspections, and then at that point your formal proposal goes in, and you meet with the government, and that's the normal procedure how things.
And there has
process
always
along.
been funds, because like I said, right now what we're looking at with a company who has supposedly, well, they're still waiting on final approval, but they don't have any money, which is quite opposite to what your company has, is the funds
Yeah.
to actually move forward.
It was in the setup. It was in the beginning before we came to the table. Once we talked on the team, we set up our team. We knew we addressed the environmental issue. We attached the foundation to our company that would ensure the people are taken care of
Right.
educationally. Because how are we going to divert those funds? How are we going to make sure that it doesn't have to go through the government to get to the people? So the best arms, as we learned in other countries that we dealt with, is let's set up the foundation.
Right.
Then that would be a separate entity that would, their sole charge is to support the people.
Right.
So we have two integral parts already put together. The next was just the hurdle of the process.
Right.
Yeah, I could give you a little background too to further answer your question. And again, I touched on the ongoing landscape of the of the oil industry.
Right.
And because when this property was up for sale, there's very reputable companies that have been around for years and years. They're going to the people who they believe have the capability to, number one, financially buy this piece of equipment, we call it that, and number two, have the wherewithal to operate it. I gave an example before, just to make this quick, but in Philadelphia, there was a refinery in Traynor, Pennsylvania. A very reputable investment banker, Bank of America, went out to all these refineries, all these oil companies. Well, oil companies I mentioned aren't refining anymore. So they're not on that list, so you can eliminate that. So now when you look at the owners or the operators in these that changed hands recently, you have two that are investment banks with experienced operators, and one, the reference that I referred to, or the example, was an airline. Now, this airline came out of nowhere, so I'm not defending the process, but the landscape has changed so much, and some of the people that are out there predetermined who may buy this, and it's not a public thing. So it's not like we could go into the listings and say this refinery for sale. It was never listed. There was a predetermined audience. Like you said, we believed we were part of the process in time. We were told we could be part of the process. We showed the funds that we were capable financially, and we have a team that we believe second to none that could operate it. And then we come along with other plans that will enhance the economic ripple effect that we talked about earlier.
Just to clarify one other thing, before we came to the table, we got the money. So I didn't go looking for your house.
And then say,
not
I'm going to
being
come
able
back with the
pay for
money.
it. Yeah,
Right.
I like your house that you have. That's great. Give me a little time. I'm
Come
gonna make
back.
some money, and I'll come back and buy that.
Right.
No, we went and got the money. They knocked on the door. Can we play?
To show that you were serious and that you
I thought that was a requirement. In this business, that's a requirement.
Yeah, and again, we go back to who's run the refineries over our generation.
Right.
Besides this, it's been big oil companies. Why big oil companies? It's a tremendous capital requirement to run a refinery. We're not talking, the number, it's $1 billion a month to run, and there's ways to get around. There was examples last night how other people can fund it, but it's a capital intense project. And even the ongoing operation, we spoke about the infrastructure that needs to be upgraded there. We have a plan that we believe can take care of all that. Start the refinery while we're doing the remediation and while we're upgrading. There's 4 crude units there. We
Right.
could start on one while we're upgrading the next. So
So
it's
you're
a-
talking about opening up the entire refinery because
It-
shortly before they closed,
Well,
they shut down the west side because it was the oldest portion of the plant, and it was, you know, the one that was creating the most health hazards, really.
we're going into this with a positive attitude. Whatever the capability of that refinery, not limited.
Right.
That we're going to say this, and if there's failure, we're not doing this. We're going in, we're going to say, how much is it possible to eventually reach our goal? What is the maximum
Maximum
capacity of this refinery? And that's what we're always going to strive for. Failure's not an option.
Clean options.
Clean options.
Clean options.
Correct.
There, and just want to stress that my cruising family is from the west side. There are certain machines they don't ever want to see fired up again. So before I could enter into this process, I had to give a guarantee
That they would never be
they would never be used again. And the only way to ensure that guarantee is our product line.
Right.
What do we need? Okay, so we know we don't need heavies. We know we don't. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We don't need certain type of crude.
Right, the sour crude.
Certain type sour crude.
Right.
Well, you said you didn't know about the industry.
Well, you know-
Well, I don't.
You know, and just so
the-
that the public understands, the difference between the sour crude and the sweet crude is that the sour crude has a high sulfur content, whereas the sweet crude has a lower sulfur content. And being a former crude unit operator, you way prefer the sweet crude than you do
that
the
needs
sour
to be
crude.
processed and
Yes.
produces harmful emissions into the air.
Yes, yes. And then the sour, because the sour crude, at least from my sister unit, had, you know, a few extra steps that needed to be done just
Cracking
to.
down, and yes.
Exactly, you know, so I was always very grateful that I wasn't placed there right out of training, you know, so.
That is similar conversations that we had, and not the conversations with my friends and family aren't that necessary. My friends, I call them family, so I don't want anybody. Oh, yes, family. No. It's not an inside deal.
Right.
The actual machines the permits must be turned back in.
Right,
They must be or sold off or not in operation.
right,
And then I would have fulfilled my promise. We would have started on the right track with our cruising family now, our new
Right.
cruising family, that we're going in the clean direction. And that's day one. That's day one.
So what do you think would be the best end result of this whole situation now that we here, especially we Cruisians, are now finding ourselves in looking at this? What would be, you know, Monarch's happy end goal, you know, and what do you see may happen? What do you hope will happen?
I think we both have two different objectives. So I'm gonna state mine, and Bob will close with his. For me, upon reaching a marriage with the government in a public way that ensures not just that ensures us the ability to work together.
Right.
We heard from the senators last night that a lot of them want some important key elements that were here that went away when the refinery went away.
Right.
Yesterday, prior to going into the Senate meeting, I wanted to see the schools.
You'd mentioned that.
It was important when we were doing our drive-through and to look at the schools.
Right.
For me, my mother was a teacher. My father worked at the Board of Education.
Right.
I can't ignore the schools. Seeing them for myself, and we looked at public, we looked at private, we looked at Catholic, and some things you got to see for yourself. So my end goal, what will be good for me, is I'm excited about opening a refinery.
Right.
That's great. That's more his goal.
Right.
Excited about the ability to provide the jobs back, restore the jobs to the Carusians here. That's beautiful as well. But my end goal is I'm more excited about the foundation. I'm more excited about setting up the areas of help that I think are going to create that hope.
Right. And
We share the same goal. I don't want to say we had different.
Yes.
However, all this starts with the economic ability of the refinery.
right.
So it's been said by many famous preachers, you can't help the poor if you're poor yourself.
That's
So
true.
we want to operate the business that starts that ripple effect. We believe, and I think that's why we're here after we were invited down by the group last night.
Right.
We believe we're a very good, if not the best option. We have the experience, we have the ability to run it, and we have the funding. So I think that gets it all started. We have, besides the refinery, we're not going to put money into a fund. We're going to start remediation immediately.
Putting people back to work immediately.
Yes, so, but I think it all starts with acquiring that refinery and get that ripple started.
Well, I want to thank you both for taking the time to meet with me and my team for VI Voices as we did this. I'm hoping that regardless of what happens, that this will not be the end of your relationship with St. Croix. I do wish you all the best. I thank you for enlightening me and also enlightening our audience to letting us get a more personal side of this whole incident and to let people know that, you know, we do have other options. So thank you again, Mr. Schrader.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us as we conclude this special interview with Monarch Energy Partners.
And there you have it. Those are the interview with Mr. Darrell Hardy of Monarch Energy Group. And so you had the chance to talk with him, and you've seen the interview, and you can judge for yourself what you've seen and how you want to proceed with that. But what was that experience like in talking with him?
It was, well, I spoke with both him and Mr. Schroeder, and it was very interesting to hear, you know, their plans for St. Croix. One thing I can say is that they came from a place of true, genuine concern for the island. One thing that he made clear, even slightly before the interview started, was that a lot of what they have planned to do here doesn't make financial sense for them as a company. But because they have such a vested interest, in particular Mr. Hardy, because as he says, he has friends here that he considers family who lives on the island.
Okay.
You know, and that was
that
was his main reason for getting involved with this whole Hovenza issue and looking to purchase the site. As he did state, yes, they do have the funds, and they can go, according to him, you know, if he got the say so today, by tomorrow he'd have his team here, and they'd be able to, you know, begin the work. So while they're doing the remediation of the cleaning of all the millions of gallons of oil that's spilled under the refinery, you know, getting the site EPA ready, then they could also be running the refinery. So this whole thing where you're hearing where ABR is telling you anywhere from now to 6 years before the refinery actually starts, they could be doing something immediately up to 6 months, which is a huge difference. Now, I did ask about the, as you saw with the process, you know, because everybody wants to know why they took so long to step forward. You know, he said when you're going into a bidding process, it's sealed, so you don't know who everybody else is.
Right.
So
that's what bidding means.
Right. So, you know, all they know is that they followed the requirements. They showed that they had the money. You know, they put forth to Lazard that, yeah, we have the money. And they submitted what they hoped would have been the winning bid. And when they didn't, then they said the only way they could have gotten involved is now when everything was made public. So, right, so that's the reason why it took them all this time, because people are like, oh, why it took so long? This is just, a Hail Mary kind of thing. So no, and you notice also last night at the Senate hearing, there was another company there that also stated the same thing, that they had issues with the way how Lazard conducted the whole process. And
no, remember Lazard, if I understood correctly, was chosen specifically by Hovensa.
Exactly.
To do this vetting.
Exactly. And it's interesting because it seems like every other company that has issue with this vetting, they
all have their money.
Have the money and can put it down. If you say pay me now, they can pay you now.
No, but I want to say so for everyone to understand, we're not saying, or we are not here at VI Voices, we're not saying that we're buying into Monarch,
right?
Or that we think that Monarch is the person should do it, or any other group should do it. At least what we're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, what we're saying is that there should be an open process, that we should really look at every single person. I don't know if they can do all the things that they're saying. Maybe they can say that. I don't know. But what I do know is, after watching the hearing last night, just listening to what this new company was saying, it just seems it gives me more questions, and it gives me an opportunity to feel comfortable about that process.
Of the whole thing is the fact that they created this company just solely for the fact of the purchase of Hovensa. They weren't existing. Yeah, they weren't existing, and they what stood out the most to me during the hearing. Well, a couple of things, but one of the things was the fact that they didn't even purchase. It's not even purchased yet.
Exactly.
Hovensa is not purchased.
But you know what's also interesting?
And the whole consensual and the difference between the two, the consensual
concession and an operating
agreement.
And it was interesting because they also said that what ABR is doing is they're buying Hovensa's or Hess's share of Hovensa.
Right.
So, and it's not even, and you can help me out with this, from what I remember, they're purchasing equity, which would then now translate into assets. And they're only purchasing the equity assets, and it's a confirmation to purchase. It's not even a solid purchase.
Here's what's interesting. And I think that this was probably in there to force, so that they could tell the senators, look, we could get $40 million now, as opposed to waiting later, where they said that, if they buy it, then we would get the $40 million. Remember, there's a lawsuit.
Right.
And Hovensa has to pay the VI government $40 million. It was settled $40 million. And what they are saying is that if this sale goes through, ABR VI is going to pay the $40 million, and you'll get it faster. And I guess that was supposed to kind of push them.
But they even explained that.
But here's my question: what company the boy people to go pay out somebody else's judgment?
Exactly.
I mean, maybe it does happen, but I mean, at the end of the day, my point is, if I settle a case with you,
you pay me.
I want my money, and whether you sell to them. First of all, here's the thing: that's a private sale, right? With the exceptions of the things that we have, which like the permitting and all the other things, and the fact that we're gonna have to give a concession agreement to do whatever. That ain't gonna do it. That's for you. That's you to figure out. But my thing is, how can I? And this is just me. How can I ratify or go back from there? How can I enter into an agreement with people who don't own something?
That's all.
You don't own the refinery, so how am I agreeing that you are going to only pay this amount of money? You won't get taxes for this. You won't do this for this. But you don't own it yet.
And that was a very good point that the Centurion senator brought up. I think it was Strigenja.
He's a lawyer. That's probably why he brought it up.
He's a lawyer.
Yes.
Okay. That was a very solid point that he brought. The same thing you just said.
And they still have 6 years to decide to purchase it.
But how am I entering a contract with somebody that doesn't own something?
But it came out very clearly that they cannot move forward with it unless the Senate ratifies this.
Why?
I guess it's hinged. It's contingent.
What?
The sale. So I'm
but
going
what?
to
What about the government having to ratify this operating agreement?
You know what? I guess to put in
yeah,
business,
but I want. We know. I mean,
no, because in business sometimes you can go if for me if I get a substantial contract, now I need capital now to be able to fulfill this contract. So I should be able to go to a bank, and say, now that I have this contract that is signed.
What's the contract?
The contract is to provide services. So they're going to purchase 5 million widgets from me. You understand? And this 5 million widgets is, let's say it's a $50 million deal.
Okay.
You understand? I don't have the capital to produce the 5 million widgets. But Clint has now said that he has agreed to sign this, you know, and you have everything in the date, the time when I'm supposed to produce it and bring it out and so forth. So now that I have this is can be used as a collateral. It's good
Is
faith.
Clint a private person?
Clint is yes, he's the other private
That's
person.
the difference. They got a private person to get money for us collateral. We're the government of the Virgin Islands, and I don't have to give you any tax breaks. I don't have to do anything with you until you're the owner of that company.
Agreed.
And if you're not the owner of that company, why am I talking to you?
Yeah,
Agreed.
It's like I'm phantomly giving away the government's money to someone that doesn't really
That's
exist.
exactly
And they're
what's
not even
going on.
purchasing the entire plant. They're only purchasing Hess's portion.
Right.
That is what was brought out. So that's another interesting
But
thing.
PDVSA is going to be gone. I understand PDVSA doesn't want to even be here.
Another
But they
interesting
haven't-
point
but
too,
they
you know what
haven't-
came out that I heard last night that I wasn't even aware of it, is the fact that Hovensa was going after ABR or the government for some money.
200 million.
200 million.
Yes, Hovensa has
They said they
filed-
overpay.
Yeah, and they have a suit right now with IRB where they
IRB,
claim
right.
the government has to give them back $200 million.
That's a big factor in this whole
Man,
thing.
if it is ever.
Let the 8 who vote for the concession agreement, take it from them. Because they owed us more than $200 million. You could have offset it.
And the thing what nobody is seeming to realize is that there is 6 years out because the payment that they're supposed to get, this 50 million or 20%, whichever is less, they can get it anytime from day one to the end of 6 years.
Who?
The government.
No, but that's what I'm trying. I think that's the $40 million that they're saying
Right.
that ABR will pay faster to you.
Well,
No,
they
no,
the
that's
only
not what it
thing-
is?
they-
No, the 50
No,
million
the
is
50
part
million.
of the
50 million.
No, it doesn't
concession
go.
agreement.
No. You don't get more than 50 million.
You're right.
Right.
Don't get
It
more.
could have been 20.
Yes, you're right.
Right.
Based on whatever the sale is
Sale,
for them.
right.
And I'm saying whatever the
But there is
sale
no
is,
sale.
whatever the sale would be,
That's what I said.
it amounts to 40 million. And so what they're saying is that ABR will pay that up front.
No, they won't.
So the government. So
I
the
hear what you're
government-
saying,
so the
but-
government will get it ahead of, rather than wait for Vincent to turn
But
it over
what,
to you.
what came out in the hearing last night is that ABR would not pay it until they are profitable or
Yes.
6 years, whichever
Right.
came first.
Right.
So they were saying that the Forster, the guy for ABR, was saying, well, we expect
Right.
to be profitable by around year
I think
3.
somebody asked in the event that they're not, and he said there are barometers and they're within the contract.
Right, so that
itself
by
address
year
the breach.
6,
That would
exactly.
address the breach.
This was Article 19. They kept referring to everything, kept
Right.
going back to
Right.
Article 19.
I myself said this particular agreement need not to be ratified.
Need to be dead.
I'm looking for what they're gonna do come tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I was there last night.
The
and I pulled
continuation
up-
of the hearing from
It's
Monday.
tomorrow, right? And then they're going to take the actual vote. Now, I was there last night in Frederickstead at the Senate building, and I was polling the senators then, in particular the St. Thomas senators. And I can tell you that I probably got enough to understand that, yeah, they plan to murder that bill.
Right.
You know, they don't want to see rear its head again. Period.
You okay? I'm gonna say this to you. And what you got, you poll them.
Uh-huh.
Tomorrow is the real deal.
True.
And things do happen.
Well, look at the Hovensa deal.
Thank you. Things do happen. My thing about it is, and let's think about it in terms of numbers. You have 6 to 7 senators who won't be coming back after January.
How many?
6 to 7, yeah. The only one that is, the
Oh,
seventh
right.
one
Oh, I didn't
is
realize
coal.
that.
That we're still up in the air with coal.
That's
But
why I
the
didn't
6
realize
definitely are not coming back.
So it's actually 2 gonna be we've got to look at. You could count the 6, right? In terms of voting for it, but it's 2. Isn't it?
Well, you know, there are already rumored two who definitely voted for inclusion senators. You know, the same Buckley and Science voting for it.
But see, Buckley's not there. Buckley's definitely not going to be there. But Sanders is going to be back.
And
you
they're
know,
expecting Chucky to vote for it as well.
Chucky, think about it is. And then you got Fricks. You got Fricks.
So yeah, those 3. You
Her
know.
questioning was weak last night too.
Cool.
Fricks.
Well, she was late to the party.
Because nobody called her to tell her.
Yeah, she was.
I mean, nobody called her to tell her.
Listen, she
I have
was.
an knock.
She
If you know
was
something,
last-
if you know something,
last
say
to
something.
She's
come.
still
Well, nobody
Last
called
to
her to tell
come,
her.
last to come, first to leave.
To leave,
I tell you,
right.
I was there the whole time.
To leave.
Last to
She didn't
come,
leave.
first to leave.
Well, you know what though? I honestly believe that they're gonna do the right thing. And the reason why I say that is because it is entirely too
blatant.
blatant
Yeah.
Right.
of a bad agreement.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
if they don't, and if they pass this, whoever votes yes, this will be the last Senate. If they won the 31st
Yeah, but that
legislature,
they will
it will be the
ever
last one.
get
Hey,
in
let me
again.
say this. If Well, this is the time that I would gladly sign a recall petition for anybody
I
if they
agree.
want to recall.
I agree.
And that recall will probably pass in seconds.
Okay, well, we've wrapped up most of what's been going on today, and next week we'll be doing it again. And I assume that we'll do
week?
a runoff, I think. Right?
Tuesday?
I think we'll do a runoff. Right?
The 18th.
The 18th.
Tuesday, yeah.
And so I think we'll be doing a runoff. I ain't sure.
Let's
We're
do it.
going to have,
This
we're
supposed
gonna
to
We'll
have
know by
their
Friday,
voices
right?
regardless, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have VI voices. I don't know if we'll do it here or if we'll do it at 1620.
1620 would be.
So we'll figure out what we're going to do. I'll know by this week.
Please.
Or we'll probably be in studio though. We won't be out.
No problem.
I think. But remember, usually I end by saying, please go out and vote, make sure your voices are heard. I don't even know what to say right now.
Please go out and
Because
vote. Definitely
all
go
I
out
can
and
say
vote.
at this point is really, if we have a runoff election, please, please, please go out and vote. If you voted on the 4th, go back out and vote on the 18th. Because it's important that your vote and your voice be heard. And when this whole election debacle is finished, we have a lot of work to do to bring some election reform into this territory. And we're going to continue to stay on this to make sure that reform is done. Good night, everybody.